Inspiring woman discovers hidden strength as billionaire husband's lawyer serves divorce papers. The cry of the headlines echoed through Maplewood like a thunderclap, rocketing through the cozy town that had always been an oasis of warmth and fellowship. Sarah, the beloved community nurse and devoted mother, found herself at the center of a storm she never saw coming. On a typical crisp autumn day, when the sun painted the sky golden hue and leaves crunched beneath her feet, she felt the world around her begin to tilt. The delivery was cold and distant, just like James's voice when he uttered the words that pierced her heart. Irreconcilable differences. As he handed her divorce papers, her pulse quickened, a wave of despair crashing over her. Sarah clutched the papers, their edges cutting into her palm, as if they were the very embodiment of her shattered dreams. She couldn't comprehend how the perfect couple had unraveled overnight. In her mind, the whispers faded, and all she could hear was the ringing of her own heartbreak, competing with cries of her two young children playing in the background. What would they think? Word spread through Maplewood faster than wildfire. At the coffee shop where she volunteered, once warm smiles morphed into pitying glances. Friends she thought she could lean on now felt like strangers. As supportive hugs seemed to carry an undercurrent of judgment, Sarah swallowed hard. Her children needed her, and she had to shield them from the storm brewing in her heart. "I want to let this define us," she whispered to herself, her heart racing with a flicker of determination. But as she stepped out into the community, the weight of economic disparity hung heavy in the air. The gap between James's wealth and her own reality felt insurmountable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing day, Sarah learned to navigate the tumult. Mary, her neighbor and a single mother herself, stepped in like a lighthouse guiding Sarah through the fog. They faced the legal labyrinth together with resilience forged in shared hardships. One fateful meeting with James's high-powered lawyer became a battleground for Sarah. As she walked into that room, the atmosphere thick with tension and expectation, something shifted inside her. No longer merely James's wife, she was Sarah, the mother, nurse, and now, fierce advocate for herself and her children. For a brief moment, time froze. She spoke as if her soul depended on it, pouring every ounce of her resolve into her words. And just like that, Sarah transformed her pain into purpose. A clear vision formed. What if she turned her struggle into strength for others? With Mary by her side, she began to organize community meetings for single parents facing their own battles of heartbreak and adversity. As excitement swirled in her chest, she felt hope rising like a sun cresting over Maplewood's horizon. But deep down, a question lingered: could she conquer the chaos and secure a future for her family? As days turned to weeks, Sarah found her footing amidst emotional waves crashing around her. But the stakes were high, and the journey had only begun. What would it take to rise above the whispers of judgment and the shadows of doubt? The answer loomed just beyond the horizon, waiting for her next move. The sun dipped low, casting a warm, golden light across Maplewood. While most families prepared for cozy dinners, Sarah was pacing in her living room, her heart a chaotic symphony of hope and anxiety. She had organized her first support meeting for single parents, and nervous energy hummed in the air. What did she really have to offer? Would anyone even show up? Her thoughts were interrupted by the ringing of the doorbell. A sharp breath escaped her lips as she ran a hand through her hair, trying to smooth the frizz caused by anxiety. Hesitantly, she opened the door, revealing a small crowd. There was Mary, of course, but also new faces she had never seen before, other mothers and fathers navigating their own heartbreaking journeys. Each carried their own weight as they stood on her doorstep, faces showing a mix of hope and apprehension. "Wow, you all came!" Sarah exclaimed, her voice breaking slightly, yet she felt warmth swelling in her chest. It was the kind of hope she had barely dared to dream about just weeks ago. As they settled into her small living room, Sarah took a deep breath and began. "Thank you all for being here. I know this isn't easy, this process of divorce and single parenting. But we're not alone," she said, her words flowing more easily now. Each encouraging nod from the group fueled her courage. That evening, stories intertwined like threads in a tapestry of shared sorrow and resilience. There was Jessica, who had left a 10-year marriage with no savings, and Jonah, a father struggling to balance his full-time job with taking care of his young son. As they spoke, Sarah listened intently, reflecting on her own journey, and the heartache she felt began to morph into something else entirely, a sense of solidarity. "I thought I was the only one mother admitted, her voice quivering. It felt so lonely." The connection that filled Sarah's living room sparked a powerful realization within her. She had always devoted her life to caring for others, but now, she could channel her energy into creating a community. An unshakable belief in their collective strength began to take root. "We can be each other's support," Sarah urged, her voice steady. "Let us meet regularly. We'll share resources, tips, and just listen to one another." The meeting lasted late into the night, and laughter mingled with tears as they shared stories. With each moment, Sarah felt herself transforming, no longer just a victim of her circumstances, but a beacon of hope for others. As the last of her guests left, Sarah's heart swelled with a surprising mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She stepped outside to breathe in the cool night air, taking a moment to soak it all in. The stars twinkled like dreams waiting to be realized above her head. She had sparked something. A glimmer of hope in a sea of uncertainty, but as she turned to head back inside, the tension rose anew in her chest. The ache of loneliness lingered, and doubt crept in, echoing James's words of irreconcilable differences and endless loops she was struggling to outrun. Would this truly be the path forward? Suddenly, she heard a rustle in the bushes nearby. Heart pounding, she steeled herself, wondering if the ghosts of her past were rising once more to haunt her. The night was only beginning, and what might unfold next was both thrilling and terrifying. What surprises awaited her in the shadows? With bated breath, Sarah turned towards the sound. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, a mix of fear and anticipation. As she stepped cautiously toward the bushes, the rustling grew louder. Her fingers clenched tightly at her sides. Was it just a harmless raccoon? Or was it something more sinister, the remnants of her former life, lurking just out of sight? "Hello," she called, her voice shaking slightly. The night seemed to hold its breath. For a heartbeat, silence enveloped her. And then, without warning, a small figure jumped out from behind the bushes. Surprise! It was Jonah's son, Charlie. His eyes sparkled, and his grin was bright against the dim backdrop of the night. "Charlie, you scared me." Sarah laughed, her heart finally settling as she crouched to his eye level. He was clutching what looked like a crumpled piece of paper. "What are you doing out here?" "I came to find you. I wanted to tell you my mom says it was the best meeting ever," he exclaimed, excitement bubbling over. "You and the other grown-ups were smiling and everything." His words, pure and honest, poured warmth over Sarah, melting some of the ice that had crept into her thoughts. Kids had a way of seeing the brighter side of things, didn't they? "Thank you, Charlie. That means so much to me," she said, ruffling his hair playfully. Her mind whirled. Here she was, running a support group for parents, and part of her still felt like a child lost in a scary world. It suddenly hit her, though, how much she had to offer, not just to adults in need, but to children like Charlie, who were caught in the whirlwind of divorce. "Did your mom ask you to come find me?" Sarah questioned, her heart swelling at the idea of genuine support from even the youngest members of their group. Charlie shook his head, his small face completely sincere. I wanted to tell you that I liked it when you played that game. About who likes donuts best. It made everybody laugh. You should do it again. Her laughter rang out, mixing with the cool night air. It was that laughter that ran deeper than the sadness. It was a reminder of resilience, the way joy, despite the circumstances, could be found in the smallest things. As they headed back to the house, Sarah felt a stirring of purpose. She was creating a haven for these families. And maybe, just maybe, her own fears were slowly beginning to shift. Could she be the mother she needed to be? When they reached the door, Sarah noticed the crumpled paper still in Charlie's hand. What is that? She asked, curious. He hesitated for a moment and then opened it to reveal a drawing. A chaotic mix of crayons painted a picture. In the center stood a tall figure with hair like sunlight. Surrounding her were happy stick figures holding hands, all with wide smiles. This is us. You, me, and my mom, and even the other kids. He beamed. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes as she knelt beside him, absorbing the image. Somehow, even through all the pain, hope and a new beginning were taking shape. She felt different now, transformed, not just a woman lost in the shadows of her past, but a woman gaining strength to step into a brighter future. Thank you, Charlie. That is beautiful, she whispered, wrapping her arms around him, but as they stepped inside, the weight of the evening settled back onto her shoulders like a heavy blanket. There was still much to face: the looming challenges, the emotional rollercoaster of legal battles, and most importantly, the truth about James. What awaited her next was still uncertain, and fear stirred once more deep in her chest. In that moment, the phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, pulling her back to reality. It was a message from her sister that read simply, "They're going to serve the papers tomorrow." The breath caught in Sarah's throat as she clutched the drawing tightly. It was a turning point. Did she have the strength to confront the reality of her past head-on? As the world around her faded, she gripped the paper, heart pounding. What would the next day bring? The moment hung in the air like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation. Sarah stood frozen, the drawing still pressed against her chest. The words on the screen seemed to pulse, each one a reminder of her impending reality. It was the first thing she had to face in the morning, the start of a new chapter that could unravel everything she thought she knew about herself and her life. Are you okay, Miss Sarah? Charlie's small voice broke through her whirlpool of thoughts. He looked up at her, his innocent eyes filled with concern. She took a deep breath, forcing a smile. I'm fine, Charlie. Just thinking. He nodded, still eyeing her with concern, as if he could sense her internal struggle. Hey, do you want to play cards before bed? My mom said it's good to distract yourself with fun things when you're feeling all weird. A smile broke through despite her worries. That sounds wonderful. They drifted over to the living room, where the soft glow of the lamp created a warm cocoon. As Charlie set up the cards, Sarah felt a flicker of happiness, a welcome change from the dread that had settled in her stomach. As they played, Charlie laughed and made silly faces, each giggle wrapping around Sarah, pulling her further away from the looming legal nightmare. The simplicity of their laughter felt like a balm, soothing a part of her that had been frayed and raw for too long. She watched him intently, absorbing his joy like a sponge. Why do adults always look so serious? Charlie asked, his brow furrowing as he concentrated on the game. You should all smile more. Life is a lot more fun that way. It is, Sarah agreed, her eyes sparkling at his wisdom. How ironic that a child could be so tuned into the joy of life. You're right, Charlie. I should smile more. Once the game wrapped up, and Charlie's laughter faded into sleepy murmurs, Sarah tucked him in like a well-loved teddy bear. She watched as he drifted off, his tiny breaths evening out, and for a moment, she quietly reimagined her world, a world where pain didn't define her. Exhaustion washed over her as she sat alone in the darkened living room, the reality of tomorrow looming in the corners. She needed to muster every ounce of strength she had. But how could she fight this battle against James with the legal papers like sharp knives aimed at her heart? Her phone vibrated again. Another message. This time it was from her friend Lila. "I'll be there tomorrow, okay? You won't face this alone." Tears pooled in her eyes, blurring the screen. Lila was right. Maybe the truth was hard, but she wouldn't have to bear it alone. There would be allies in this struggle. Suddenly, she found herself wrapped in thoughts of the drawing again. Charlie's smiling stick figures floated through her mind, and she wished for a future where she could offer him and the other kids in the group a life filled with laughter, not fear. But what if James fought back? What if he didn't want to let her go? Would she have the strength to stand her ground? With determination coursing through her, she rose from the couch, walking to the kitchen. There was something liberating about confronting the unknown, about not letting fear dictate her next steps. She picked up the drawing from earlier and pinned it on the fridge, right beside her list of things to do in the morning. Each time she glanced at it, she would remember. It was not just about her fears, it was about family, about protecting the joy they all deserved. As midnight crept in, she turned the lights off, holding on to hope like a lifeline. But just as she settled into bed, her mind raced with possibilities. What would James say? Would he show up with flashing anger? The night stretched ahead, pregnant with uncertainties. A shiver ran down her spine as she gripped the blankets like a shield, readying herself for battle. Tomorrow would bring answers, and she was determined to find the strength to fight, one way or another. In her heart, a whisper echoed tomorrow could also be a step towards something better. What awaited her in that courtroom? With resolve, she closed her eyes, knowing she would find out soon enough. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, chasing away the remnants of sleep. Sarah stirred, the weight of the day pressing down on her chest like a heavy blanket. She felt the familiar flutter of anxiety in her stomach, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. With a sigh, she pushed herself out of bed and moved to the kitchen. The smell of brewed coffee filled the air, and she poured herself a steaming cup, hoping it would provide some comfort. As she took her first sip, the warmth spread through her, almost soothing the panic that danced in her heart. "Okay, Sarah. One step at a time," she whispered to herself, staring at the drawing still pinned to the fridge. Charlie's bright stick figures smiled back at her. They were a beacon of hope, and she remembered how laughter could catch the darkest shadows off guard. She grabbed a notebook and jotted down a few reminders for herself. Stay calm. Remember what you're fighting for. Stand your ground. With each line, she felt a touch of her former strength returning. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Charlie and the other kids who depended on her. They deserved someone who wouldn't back down. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, echoing through the quiet house. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Could it be Lila? She rushed to the door, her pulse quickening with each step. As she opened it, there stood Lila, an anchor of support, her smile brightening the entrance. "Hey, I made you breakfast," she chirped, a box of pastries balanced in her hand. Just seeing her friend sent a surge of relief through Sarah. "Thank you," Sarah said, inviting her in. The smell of fresh croissants filled the air, mixing with the lingering coffee aroma. They settled at the kitchen table, sharing stories and laughter, even as the weight of the looming court appearance lingered in the background. "I can't believe it's finally here," Lila said, grabbing a croissant. "You've got this, you know. You're so much stronger than you think." Sarah took a deep breath, the sincerity of Lila's words washing over her. She picked at her food, feeling a mix of gratitude and guilt, grateful for Lila's support yet guilt-ridden for dragging her friend into this mess. What if James pulled some stunt in the courtroom? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What if he tries to belittle everything I've fought for? Lila reached across the table, squeezing Sarah's hand. You want to let him? Just remember who you are. You've fought through too much to give in now. A flicker of anger sparked in Sarah. You're right. I can't let him have that power over me. Not anymore. Her voice sounded stronger, and she felt new resolve blooming inside her. They finished breakfast, Sarah's mind drifting between hope and fear, a turbulency of emotions. As Lila packed up the remaining pastries, she glanced at the clock. We should head out soon if you want to grab a good seat, she suggested gently. The reality of that statement struck Sarah. It was time. They gathered their things, and as they stepped outside, the sun felt like a new beginning. The breeze tousled her hair, bringing an unexpected clarity with it.I in the car. Lila turned up the radio, filling the space with upbeat music, a curtain against the heaviness of the day. For the first time since yesterday, a smile crept onto Sarah's face. She wanted to hold on to that feeling of lightness a little longer, but as they neared the courthouse, doubt crept back in. What if everything went wrong? What if she failed? Just breathe, okay? Lila said, breaking into her thoughts. You're not alone. You have me, and remember Charlie. You fight for him. Sarah drew in a deep breath, filling her lungs with courage and resolve. The car came to a stop, and they stepped into the chaos of the courthouse. People bustled around, lawyers on their phones and parents clutching files. As they walked through the doors, Sarah spotted James waiting across the room, his expression unreadable. Her heart raced. This was the moment she had prepared for. With Lila by her side, she squared her shoulders and stepped forward, ready to reclaim her future. But as she closed the distance, something unexpected shimmered in James's eyes, a flicker of vulnerability. Was it just her imagination, or could this finally be the chance to reach the truth? What would happen next? The air in the courthouse felt thick, almost palpable with tension. Every step Sarah took toward James seemed to stretch time, her heart pounding a frantic beat. The flicker she saw in his eyes was almost confusing. Was this really the man she'd fought so hard to escape? Or was it a facade, just another trick he had up his sleeve? Lila squeezed her hand, grounding her. You've got this, Sarah, she whispered, and her unwavering support fueled a fire within Sarah. James shifted, his expression hardening as she approached. The confidence Sarah had been crafting in the kitchen felt fragile now, like a butterfly ready to take flight but caught in a gust of wind. She opened her mouth to greet him, but the words got stuck, tangled in her throat. Look who it is, James smirked, his voice smooth and mocking. The brave little warrior coming to claim her piece of the pie. Anger ignited within her. How dare he reduce everything to such a callous phrase? Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself, giving Lila a glance filled with determination. This wasn't just about them, it was about setting the record straight, a chance to show the world the truth. James, Sarah began, her voice steady, surprising even herself, this isn't just about money, and you know it. It's about Charlie. His eyes narrowed, and Sarah felt a spark of something unexpected, resilience. She felt Lila's presence like a warm light beside her, and it made her bold. You've never cared about who is raising him, she continued, her voice gaining momentum. You only see him as an accessory to your perfect life. But I'm not going to let you play that game anymore. A smirk faded from James's face, replaced by something darker. What makes you think a judge will listen to you? You think being emotional will win you sympathy? The room swirled around them. A couple of onlookers had turned to watch, and Sarah noticed their discreet expressions. She could feel the eyes on her, but instead of shrinking away, it ignited her passion. Maybe emotions should be part of the conversation, she shot back, her pulse racing. You don't know what it's like to fight for someone else's future. To sacrifice everything to give them a chance. If you think this is just about our past, you're mistaken. James cocked an eyebrow as if she'd just revealed an unexpected plot twist. Silence draped over them, the chatter around her faded, leaving only her and James in that moment. A glimpse of uncertainty flitted across his features, and it emboldened her. Suddenly, a voice broke the tension. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. A court officer gestured for them to step inside the courtroom. Sarah's stomach flipped as they entered, an overwhelming mix of vulnerability and defiance washing over her. The heavy wooden doors closed behind them with finality, and she forced herself to stand tall. The judge, a stern-looking woman with a commanding presence, adjusted her glasses, glancing between Sarah and James. This is it. Let us hear what both parties have to say. With that, the eyes of the room shifted, settling onto her. Time seemed to freeze as Sarah's heart pounded. This was her moment to shine, to confront the truth, and to finally be the voice for Charlie. Just before she spoke, James leaned in, his voice a low murmur under the judge's authority. You really think you can turn this around, don't you? His words dripped with sarcasm, but there was a hint of something else. Was it fear? The darkness in his tone only fueled her fire. Sarah took a breath, calling all her strength to the forefront. In that moment, she realized how far she had come. It wasn't just about the divorce, it was about her reclaiming her life, fighting for the future she envisioned for Charlie. She glanced towards the door, where Lila stood like a beacon of hope, and a small smile crept onto her face. Your Honor, she began, her voice ringing out with unmistakable clarity, this isn't just a separation, it's the beginning of a fight for a better future. What would she reveal next? Would the truth be enough to change everything? Your Honor, Sarah continued, the weight of every eye in the courtroom on her, I'm not here to paint a false picture of our past. Yes, James has his riches and charm, but none of that matters if he doesn't care about Charlie. She paused, glancing at the judge, who sat there pensively, absorbing her words. The silence in the room felt heavy, charged with expectation. Every word Sarah had rehearsed in her mind now battled for position, clamoring to be spoken forth. I know this divorce isn't just a split over finances, she said, her resolve strengthening with each breath. It's about what Charlie deserves, a stable, loving home where he feels safe and supported. Because that is what every child needs. Not just money. Not just appearances. But real love. James's expression twisted, frustration bubbling beneath his calm facade. Your Honor, he interjected, a hint of annoyance in his voice, we're discussing custody here, not a lecture on parenting values. Sarah's desperate attempts to paint me as a villain. Desperate? She shot back, her voice rising ever so slightly. I'm not the one living in a gilded cage, pretending everything is perfect. You think wealth can replace a caring father? You don't even make time for your son, so how can you claim any sort of parenting? A murmur rippled through the courtroom, igniting Sarah's nerves but also invigorating her spirit. She locked eyes with Lila, who gave her a thumbs up, silently urging her to push forward. James, she continued, her voice steady, you talk about family values and protecting our child, but your actions don't reflect that. You think throwing money at problems makes them go away. But children remember the moments, the time spent, the love shared. And I'll fight to make sure Charlie has that. The judge raised an eyebrow, intrigued and perhaps a bit sympathetic. Sarah could sense that she was gaining ground. She leaned forward, pouring her heart out. I want to be there for Charlie through every step of his life. I want him to know he is more than just a pawn in this. He deserves a mother who cares enough to fight for him. A mother who will always put him first. James's anger flared, and he leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest defensively. "Your Honor, I request that we stick to the facts here," he said, with a veneer of calm that failed to mask his agitation. Sarah's emotional arguments have no merit in a legal setting. But there was something different in the room now. The judge's gaze remained fixed on Sarah, measuring her every word, every emotion. "What kind of facts do you speak of when it comes to a child's well-being, James?" Sarah challenged, her heart racing. "Your kind of facts. Because let us not forget, you've kept Charlie at arm's length for so long while you play king in your castle." The courtroom was silent. Sarah could hear the sound of her own heartbeat, a steady drum driving her forward. Her vulnerability had transformed into an armor she wore with pride. "And if that means taking a stand against someone as powerful as you," she continued boldly, "then so be it. I am willing to fight, not just for myself, but for Charlie, who deserves a mother who will do anything for him." The judge finally spoke, her voice steady as she broke the silence. "I sense a lot of passion on both sides. But let us keep the focus on what matters at hand, the best interest of the child." Sarah nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within her. Maybe, just maybe, this was the moment that could change everything. But as she saw James's jaw tighten, she knew he wouldn't back down easily. The tension hung thick in the air, crackling like electricity, as the next words lingered in silence. Would the judge see through James's facade? Would this truly be the turning point in the fight for Charlie? The judge's gaze shifted between Sarah and James, the weight of her decision palpable. "I understand we are all here for Charlie," she began, her voice calm but authoritative. "However, I need to hear not only the emotions but the facts, as you say, Mr. Anderson, the tangible impact on the child." A rush of anxiety hit Sarah again. What would be presented next? Would James use his wealth and connections to spin his story in a way that might sway the court? Her heart pounded in her chest, and she fought the urge to fidget with her hair. Instead, she focused on Charlie's face, his bright eyes and the warmth of his laughter, and took a deep breath. "Your Honor, if I may," James spoke, cutting in with a practiced smoothness. "I believe it's essential to present evidence of my involvement in Charlie's life." He motioned to his lawyer, who promptly produced a series of documents, pictures of James at various events, gifts he had given Charlie, and even luxury vacations they had taken together. "These images," James continued, "demonstrate my commitment to being a good father, despite my work obligations." The courtroom shifted, and Sarah felt the growing tension in the room. Was it working? Was he winning? She fought to suppress the growing fear inside her. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the judge interjected. "Mr. Anderson, that is all well and good, but the emotional connection you foster with your son is not measured by vacations or gifts," the judge asserted, her tone brisk. "Please provide actual instances of your time spent with Charlie. Quality time, moments that count." There it was, the question Sarah had been longing to hear. She found her voice again, feeling the burning embers of determination ignite. "Your Honor," she addressed the judge, "while Charlie enjoys the luxuries James provides, it's the small moments that matter most. The bedtime stories, the hand-holding through hard times, the laughter over pancakes on Sundays. Those are what a child remembers, not an extravagant birthday party." James's expression darkened, and Sarah thought she might have struck a nerve. The room buzzed with whispered opinions, as the audience absorbed the weight of her words. "Mr. Anderson can put on a show, but the reality is his absence. Charlie needs more than just a provider, he needs a dad who shows up, who is present in his everyday life." Sarah felt the flush of her cheeks and the adrenaline grip her. With every word, she felt lighter, more empowered. The judge nodded, her expression contemplative. "I appreciate your perspective, Ms. McAllister. But I need more than your accounts of your relationship with Charlie. Can you present evidence or witnesses to support your case? Yes, Your Honor, Sarah said, heart racing as a plan formed in her mind. I can bring in Charlie's teachers, friends, and even neighbors. They can attest to my involvement with him, the love I put into our life together. James scoffed, his impatience boiling to the surface. This isn't a popularity contest, Sarah. Providing unsolicited opinions from those people will not prove your worthiness as a mother. Perhaps not, Sarah replied, her voice steady. But it will show that I am not only there for Charlie, I am active in shaping his life, enriching it. Just as a mother should. The judge sat back, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Sarah could feel the tide shifting, and for the first time, she allowed herself to breathe a bit easier. But then, as she caught a glimpse of James's clenched fists and narrowed eyes, a chill ran down her spine. Whatever confidence she had felt was met with a stark realization: this wasn't just a battle for custody. It was a war, and James had plenty of resources and tricks up his sleeve. As the judge prepared to adjourn for the day, Sarah's heart sank slightly at the uncertainty of the looming fight ahead. Would there be more surprises? Would James create obstacles that she couldn't see coming? The courtroom noise faded as she mentally prepared for the next round, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She could feel something shifting inside her. But what she didn't expect was how deeply this fight would change her. Would she truly become the mother Charlie needed, or would James's power prove too great? With that lingering question in her mind, Sarah steeled herself for what awaited in the days to come. As the gavel hit the wooden block, signaling the end of the session, the echoes of the courtroom chatter filled Sarah's head. She glanced down to see Charlie, still seated beside her, his little hands grasping a crumpled piece of paper he had doodled on during the proceedings. He looked up at her with wide eyes, seeking comfort. It struck Sarah how much was at stake, not just for herself, but for him. "Mommy, are we going to win?" His voice broke through the noise, innocent and undiluted by the world's complexities. She swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "We're going to do our best, sweetheart." But even as she said it, doubt crept in. How could she promise anything when she could feel the storm brewing? With James's calculated expressions, as they exited the courtroom, the air felt thicker. Sarah noticed the glare of the afternoon sun against the polished floor, but even that couldn't overshadow the dark thoughts swirling in her mind. She clutched Charlie's hand, her mind racing ahead to the next steps. She needed to gather her witnesses, and more heavily, proof of her bond with Charlie. That evening, Sarah sat across from her best friend, Lily, in their favorite cafe, a small, welcoming place where they'd spent countless hours sharing laughter and dreaming big. Tonight, though, the atmosphere was different. Sarah's heart felt like a weighted stone as she recounted the events of the day. "So, what is next?" Lily asked, leaning in, her brows knitted with concern. "I have to organize interviews with Charlie's teachers and friends. I need their backing. If I can show the judge how involved I am in his life, maybe it'll make a difference," Sarah explained, her voice slightly shaky. "But you know James will see this as a fight, right?" "He won't play fair," Lily replied, her expression serious. "I know," she said. "But I can't back down. Charlie deserves better than just material things. He needs love, stability, our history. I want to let him grow up thinking he is just a trophy." Lily nodded thoughtfully, a hint of admiration in her eyes. "You are strong, Sarah. You've always been the one to fight for what is right." That ember of determination within her reignited. She wanted to believe that, even against James's vast connections and wealth, her love for Charlie could illuminate a path forward. In the days that followed, Sarah reached out to the people who had filled their home with laughter and joy, their neighbors, Charlie's teachers, even the local librarian who always saved the best books for him. Each conversation left her feeling more determined, her spirit lifting a little higher after every interaction. But the fight wasn't only happening in the courtroom. It seeped into every part of her life. James's team was relentless, digging deeper, casting unfair shadows on her every move. She received an unexpected call from one of his attorneys, who tried to discredit her as a mother. "Do you really believe you'd be a fit parent?" the voice on the line asked, cutting straight to her core. That night, as Sarah lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, heart racing. She grappled with self-doubt, feeling small against James's looming presence. Yet, as she thought of Charlie's laughter, the way his eyes sparkled when he played, a flicker of defiance stirred within her. The next day, as she sat across from her witnesses, banding together to share their support, she realized something: their stories melded into hers, creating an unwavering support system around her. Within that strength, she could see a new path forming, one forged not just by hope, but by relentless determination. She understood then that this battle would be as much about her transformation as it would be about their shared future. As they left the final witness meeting, Sarah felt an unexpected surge of confidence. Maybe she was transforming into someone she never knew she could be. But then an unsettling realization struck her: could she attack the obstacles that James posed while still preserving her own integrity? The thought haunted her, but she had come this far. As she drove home, a fire ignited inside. The fight was far from over, and she wouldn't back down. With the next court date on the horizon, Sarah prepared herself. Because battle lines had been drawn, and she was ready to step deeper into the ring. But would the strength she had found be enough to face the unexpected challenges James had in store for her? The morning light unveiled a new day in Maplewood. Sarah stood in front of the mirror, taking deep breaths. Today was the day she'd been both dreading and anticipating, a day that could change everything. She adjusted her blouse, straightening its lines, determined to project strength even when her heart felt like a butterfly caught in a storm. "Mommy, are you okay?" Charlie's soft voice broke through her thoughts, pulling her back to the warmth of their home. She knelt down to his level, searching for reassurance in his innocent eyes. "Yes, sweetheart," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm ready. We're going to do this together." Together. That word rang like a bell in her heart, a reminder of the community that had surrounded her during the hardest times. She grabbed Charlie's hand, wrapping it tightly in hers. They stepped out into the world, the crisp air sweeping around them, filling her with an unexpected courage. As they arrived at the courthouse, familiar faces filled the hallways. The gathering of supporters, neighbors, teachers, even the librarian were there to back her. A wave of gratitude washed over Sarah. She felt buoyant amidst the whispers of encouragement and warm smiles that reassured her she was not alone. "All right," Lila whispered, squeezing her shoulder as they walked toward the courtroom. "Just remember who you're fighting for." With a deep breath, Sarah entered the courtroom. The atmosphere felt electric as she glanced at James seated across the room, flanked by his legal team. He had the same smug demeanor, but today she wouldn't let it intimidate her. The judge entered, her gavel hitting the block with authority. "Let us proceed." As they presented their sides, Sarah felt her heart race with each word she uttered. This wasn't just a presentation, it was a testament to her love for Charlie, the life they had built together. She recounted every bedtime, every laugh, every moment that defined their bond. "Your Honor," she said, looking directly at the judge, "this isn't just about custody. This is about a child's well-being. Charlie doesn't need all the extravagant gifts, he needs stability, love, and someone who is present for his life." James shifted uncomfortably, anger simmering beneath his calm exterior. "Your Honor," he interrupted, his voice smooth but defensive, "the evidence shows I have provided for him in ways that count." "Material provisions don't substitute emotional support," Sarah shot back, her voice unwavering. Charlie deserves more than just a provider, he needs a loving father. As the proceedings unfolded, the testimonies from her neighbors and Charlie's teachers flooded the room, weaving a tapestry of support that painted her as a true advocate for her son. Their words wrapped around her like a protective cloak, giving her strength to press forward. Then came the moment of truth. The judge turned to Sarah, acknowledging her unwavering passion. "Ms. McAllister, you've presented a strong case for your involvement in Charlie's life. But can you provide concrete proof of your dedication?" "Yes, Your Honor," Sarah declared, "I've arranged for their testimonies, but I can also provide evidence of all the moments that don't get captured in photographs. The afternoons spent at the park, the countless projects I've helped him with at school. I want to create a loving home that nurtures his dreams." The judge nodded, her internal gears clearly turning, weighing each argument carefully. Sarah's heart raced. This was it. Could the tide genuinely be shifting away from James? At last, the judge spoke, her voice echoing in the silence. "I have heard enough to consider both sides seriously. I'll issue my ruling soon." As they left the courtroom, Charlie nestled his small hand in hers. And despite the uncertainty that loomed in the air, hope awakened in her heart. The road ahead wasn't easy, but she was no longer just Sarah. She was a warrior for her child, a beacon of resilience. Days turned into weeks as Sarah awaited the judge's decision. During that time, she cultivated connections through her support meetings, shining light into the lives of more families facing the turmoil. She became a pillar in the community while nurturing her own growth. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. The courtroom was thick with tension as everyone took their seats. Sarah's breath quivered as the judge entered, each step a drumroll announcing what they had all waited for. With her gavel, the judge called for silence. "After careful consideration of the evidence presented, I determined that the well-being of Charlie Johnson is best served under the primary custody of his mother, Sarah McAllister." A wave of relief crashed over Sarah, tears pricked her eyes, a mix of disbelief and gratitude. Charlie's joyful squeal echoed in the courtroom as he hugged her tightly. For the first time in a long while, she felt the burden lifting. But James's expression faltered, anger flickering behind his eyes. "This isn't over," he declared, but Sarah held her ground, feeling the unyielding support of her community surrounding her. Walking out, her heart soared. She had fought for both herself and Charlie, reclaiming a future filled with love and laughter. The challenges ahead were daunting, but she felt stronger, ready to face them head-on. "Mommy, you did it," Charlie said, looking up at her with pure adoration. "I knew you would." "Yes, sweet boy," she replied softly, kneeling to meet his gaze. "We did it. Together." And as they stepped out into the sun-kissed world, Sarah understood that this was just the beginning. She embraced the promise of new adventures, fueled by hope and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son. Her heart swelled with joy, knowing that she held a future filled with the bright laughter of children and the warmth of a community that had raised her up. She would never forget the struggle, but she also knew that with love, resilience, and hope, anything was possible. And now, as you followed Sarah's journey, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel for more exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us know you want more transformative tales. Comment your feelings about this empowering ending. What struck you the most? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Because true fans like you understand the power of support, let's uplift each other together. We're unstoppable.